TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
Hello, I'm Phil Blizzard in Dubai with the first podcast of the new season for TravelWise, available on my Pod Talks platform across all good podcast channels. And this first podcast of the new season features my experience as I start flying again after a break of 18 months, like so many people. Well, my first flight out of Dubai, in fact, my first flight out of anywhere was on Friday the 13th of August. Yes, Friday the 13th. Might be unlucky for some. It might be a double whammy because if you are superstitious, Friday the 13th is known as a triskaidekaphobia day. People who don't like 13 and when it lands on a Friday. But for me, it was a lucky day. I was able to experience flying with Emirates in business class from Dubai to Barcelona. Well, in this podcast, you'll hear my experiences on board the aircraft, of course, in the business class cabin, the service offered, along with my experience for travelling, once again, after that break of 18 months, what it was like in the new norm, you might say. You'll hear my experiences as I go through Dubai International Airport and one or two new innovations there, which surprised me pleasantly. So stay tuned for that as we get ready to fasten up our seatbelts for my first flight for over 18 months.
TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on board this flight to Barcelona in partnership with Malaysia Airlines and Qantas.
Well, the engines are revving up, and this is a moment I've been waiting for such a long time, like so many people. Our first flight, my first flight since January 2020, aboard Emirates flight EK 185 from Dubai to Barcelona on board a Boeing 777-300. And this flight's 6.5 hours. I'm going to enjoy every single moment of it. First flight since January 2020, and we're sort of racing along the runway at Dubai International Airport. The engineering buildings on my left, terminal on the right, and in a moment airborne. Our first flight since January 2020, and what a way to start TravelWise. News for me, Phil Blizzard, and this is going to be an exciting podcast coming your way on all good podcast channels. Yes, we're airborne, just climbing the skies over Camarines and Murden on our 6.5 hour flight from Dubai to Barcelona. Here we come.
TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
The Emirates experience continues, and I must be very honest, I enjoyed the croissant so much I went for a second. A very nice mug of piping hot coffee. So now, well, I had a very early call. The call was 3:30. My pickup was at 4:15. A very smooth drive from the Emirates limo, chauffeur-driven car, to take us from Ras Al Khaimah, hence the early start, to Dubai International Airport, and arriving there at 3 hours ahead of the flight, so just after 5 o'clock. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. The procedure in this, what should we say, the new norm, was very smooth through Dubai Terminal 3, Dubai Airport Terminal 3. I'll tell you what actually happened. I mean, you've got to wear a face mask throughout the terminal and also on board the aircraft, except for when you're having a meal, of course. But when you go to check-in, they obviously take your passport and ticket details. Then they will ask you for your vaccination information, either on your mobile device or print off showing you've been vaccinated. For our flight to Spain, no PCR test required for that flight if you've been vaccinated, and they will also check that you've filled in the document for entry into Spain, the medical document with a QR code which shows your vaccination details. So once that's been not analysed but scanned and put into the system, ticket was issued, and then it was a matter of going through security. And for me, it was the first time I'd gone through the security tunnel, which is actually amazing. You just walk through, your face or your retina is scanned, and that was it, through to having my hand luggage checked, and then up to the lounge for an early breakfast. It was around about 6 o'clock, so time there to relax for a couple of hours before boarding the aircraft around about 7:30, with the flight taking off at 8:15. So yeah, very early start. 3:30 in the morning was my wake-up call. Yep, and then over to Dubai. So I think I'm going to stretch out, or in fact lie down, have a bit of a snooze for a while, so I get to Barcelona refreshed, and snooze for a few hours. I believe that lunch will be served about 2.5 hours before arriving into Barcelona. So have a bit of a snooze, that's the plan for me, and my experience with Emirates will continue after the snooze by exploring the ICE system. Try and get familiar with that again after such a long gap. Amazing to be flying once again. Last flight was way back in January 2020. I'm Phil Blizzard with TravelWise.
TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
Well, I must say that was a very comfortable and much needed sleep after such an early start. My Emirates experience continued, and well, just been woken up, had time to sort of freshen up a little bit, and lunch has been served. So give you some idea now. Let me give you some idea now of lunch on this flight from Dubai to Barcelona. I'm on the main course at the moment, but I've had the starter, which I enjoyed very much indeed. I went for the salmon salad, which was a mix of smoked salmon and salmon trout with roasted beetroot and seasonal greens, dressed with truffle oil and lemon, and alongside that was a seasonal side salad and a very nice brown roll. Now, other choices would have been lentil soup, and there's a very interesting sort of article, Words from Our Chef. It's a bit of a feature on the history and traditions of lentils and how they're used in different cultures, different countries around the world. Fascinating insight. So that's a regular feature in the menu, Words from Our Chef. The other choice on the as an appetizer for the lunch menu was the traditional Arabic meze. There's also an Emirati dish on the main course section of the menu. King prawns marinated in a traditional Emirati spice blend. Fellow passenger on my right has that, and the spices smell absolutely wonderful, with fragrant rice and roasted pine nuts and fried onions. Also, if you are a vegetarian or you fancy a vegetarian dish, there's the ancho 3-bean chili, vegan stew, peppers served with pan-fried corn cake and a few other bits and pieces as well. Okay, but I went for the pan-fried beef fillet, which I've just started actually. Considering we're flying at 38,000 feet, I don't know how they do it, but the fillet beef is absolutely superb. Comes with a mustard sauce, roasted potatoes and sautéed vegetables. So there we are. So it's quite a substantial meal as well as a substantial main course. So as for dessert, I don't know. Might go for a cheese ball. I'll see. And of course, to go with a meal, a wide choice of some fine wines and also spirits and other drinks to add to your enjoyment of the onboard service. So excuse me while I go back and continue with my pan-fried beef fillet as the Emirates experience continues. Oh, by the way, which I've got to mention earlier when we were talking about ticketing, checking and everything else, Emirates have probably one of the best offers in the entire aviation industry when it comes to tickets. And if you need to change a ticket for whatever reason, they do it free of charge. So that's well worth bearing in mind. You might have plans and they might change because of the changing world we're in. So you better do that with Emirates free of charge. So that's some good news here on TravelWise with me, Phil Blizzard.
TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
Hi, Mr. Blizzard. How was your meal?
Absolutely wonderful. I had the salmon to start with, the appetizer, followed by the steak, and it's amazing. Compliments to the chef how he can sort of prepare such a good steak. We're flying at 36,000 feet.
Yeah.
Well, back at base anyway, but that was fabulous. And finishing off with a cheese board, absolutely delightful.
I am so glad that you liked it, and I'm definitely going to write to the company. Special compliments for the catering to know that how gladly you enjoyed the meal.
I had the experience many years ago going around the Emirates catering department and filming for a special report. Fascinating insight behind the scenes. Now, a couple of things really I want to ask you. I mean, for our listeners, in terms of on-board protocols, what is it now for passengers flying with Emirates?
With regards to the protocols in current situation, of course the masks are mandatory, and once you board the aircraft, like you must have experienced, the crew came out, gave out mask and hand sanitizer to all the customers, and Like you can see when you approach your seat, everything was covered into a plastic bag, right from your pillows to your blankets to mattress, headset, everything was in a plastic cover, and this is to promote hygiene. And also, if you can see the magazine racks, we used to have it all filled up. Now we have removed everything. The only magazine that we have is the onboard shopping, which is Emirates Red in-flight.
Now, the other thing I want to ask you is that, what should we say, the new norm, and things have changed, of course, for the crew from the early days of flying back after your break. You seem to be getting back to more normality in terms of uniform, for example.
Yes, we are approaching towards that normality, as you say, which is very nice, and we are really glad, because now we feel that we are going back to where it was, where we had stopped. And we still have the sanitizers for us. We have to keep washing and sanitizing, wear gloves, masks.
And it's my first flight since January of last year.
Wow.
But looking at what's been happening with Emirates, keeping up to date with press releases and things, the staff were wearing an outer, what should we say, transparent?
It was a protective gown.
That's gone now.
That has gone off. Yeah.
You know what I haven't done? I haven't introduced you, have I? So your name and your role is?
My name is Neeta, and I'm the purser in charge on board.
Now, the other thing which is very good with Emirates is, in these uncertain times, people might need to change the plans, their flights, and they can do that very easily through the generosity of the flexibility of Emirates.
Yes, absolutely. They're very flexible. They're very understanding, and there is more flexibility coming in actually nowadays. So.
Okay, we're on a fabulous flight from Dubai to Barcelona. I say, ole, can't wait to get to Barcelona on my first outing from Dubai since January of last year. And I'd say thank you very much indeed. It's been a great pleasure for me, and I'm very lucky to be invited by Emirates to try your business class service as things are at the moment. It's pre-COVID, I'd say, in terms of what you're offering when it comes to cuisine and the service on board.
Thank you so much, and it was an absolute pleasure to have you on board, and we really hope to serve you again in your future.
You will indeed. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.
Well, my first podcast of the new season, flying with Emirates, the Emirates experience from Dubai to Barcelona. And, we were talking about so many different aspects. I forgot to mention about the bed. I'm over 6 foot in height, and the bed in business class, or the seat in business class, converts into a fully flat bed. Yes, it did. A lovely mattress was put on top of the seat. Lay down, had a great sleep, a great snooze for a few hours, as you heard. And that bed has plenty of spare room at my head, actually. And as I said, I'm over 6 foot in height, so that was brilliant. Many thanks to all the crew on board, including person Neeta and the rest of the team on board that Emirates flight, and indeed Emirates on the airport and in Barcelona as well. And a fabulous start, a flying start, you might say, with our first podcast of the new season. I'm Phil Blizzard with TravelWise News, Views and Interviews. I look forward to joining you soon. And if you would like to have a podcast production for your organisation, do get in touch with me. Drop me an email, philblizzardmedia@gmail.com.
A Phil Blizzard radio production. TravelWise with Phil Blizzard. News, views and interviews.